Hi, Joshua. Thank you for joining me
Hello.
in this podcast, Brain and You. I'm very excited to have you here because, with your experience as an expert in neurodiversity and a special educator, I feel a lot of our parents have a lot to learn from the way you do things in Nigeria. So, can we just start by you introducing yourself first?
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Ayanwole Boluwatife Joshua. I'm a neurodiversity advocate, special education need expert, and gifted education need specialist in Nigeria, to be precise.
Okay, lovely. Before I begin, Joshua, I have this question that I think a lot of parents want answer to. What is autism?
Okay. To begin with, autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder that affects social interactions, nonverbal communications, and verbal communications. To put it simple, autism affects social interactions, verbal and non-verbal communications, just to avoid complexity of it. I can give you thousands and thousands of
Yeah,
definitions, but we don't need a
yeah,
big
yeah,
definitions.
yeah,
We just
yeah,
wanted to make it simple for people to
yeah,
understand what it is. So
yeah.
basically, when they are talking about autism, two things or three things should come to our mind. It's a neurodevelopmental disorder that affects social interaction, which means the way a person interacts, that affects verbal and non-verbal communication, which has to do with the way we verbalize, we talk to each other. So that is to make things
Yeah,
simple.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, very useful. I get it. Yeah. How can parents identify early signs of autism in their child?
That's a wonderful question. And to be frank, I want to appreciate you for asking me that question. How can parents identify early signs of autism or in their child? The first thing is I want us to know quite well that there are developmental milestones. For each and every one, there is a developmental milestone. For myself, Joshua, that I'm speaking, before I get to this age that I'm speaking, I have a developmental milestone. The first thing is you have to look at the developmental milestone of your child. Many quite aware that if there is delay in developmental milestone, it's a red flag you have to watch. So the best thing is there are stages to development. If the child is having a delay in stages of development, you should know quite well that something is wrong. For example, language development delay. If a child is not speaking at the time when he's not meant to speak,
Hmm.
for example, a
Hmm.
child should be able to be
Hmm.
babbling at the age of 4 to 6 months. If that child is not babbling at that period of time, you know there is a problem.
Hmm.
And also a child to be able to say his first word around the period of 9 to 12 months. That is the aspect of language. So generally, we have other physical features that the child should be able to exhibit. The child should be able to imitate actions. The child should be able to maintain eye contact, looking at a person. If all those things are not there, you should know quite well that there is something somewhere that needs to be dealt with. The second thing is on the aspect of behaviors. Now, definitely, human beings are social animals in which we exhibit behavior. If a child is giving it symptoms or is giving an attribute of repetitive behavior, it's just used to a particular behavior, and that behavior is what is used to repetitive behavior, like flapping of hands, rocking of chairs, and very sticky to a particular routine. I think parents should know quite well that they need to make consultation, they need to find more, they need to get to know what is going on by that. The third thing I want to mention is emotional regulation. Now, every child should be able to regulate their behavior in whatever way. Parents should pay attention to their child emotional regulations. If the child is not regulating his emotions, throwing tantrum all around, is not being calm. When you have to do this, you have to move from that place. It's just being aggressive most of the time. It's one of the red flags. It's one of the things parents should know. Those are the early signs parents should know quite well that something is wrong. And in summary, I want to make emphasis on this the aspect of social interactions and social play. Now, every child has an habit of relating to an adult, relating to an individual, should be able to play around. If the child is
Hmm.
not playing, you see quite well that the child just enjoys being himself. That is, he enjoys loneliness, being on himself. He doesn't play around. Even when you stretch your hand to the child is not even reciprocating any actions. You know quite well that something is wrong. In summary, If you notice there is any developmental milestone, emotional, physical, psychological, or any obvious signs, know quite whether you need to seek professional support and attention. Thank you.
Amazing, amazing. I think you've given us exactly 4 points that a parent should keep in mind. So tell me, Joshua, once they have found these symptoms, what should be the first step that a parent takes after noticing signs of autism?
Wow. Wow. For me, the first thing is speak out. Speak out. Seek help. Don't keep quiet. Be intentional about your child. Remember, it's your child. Be a voice to your child. Speak for your child. Get information. Get to know. How are you going to speak out? How are you going to get information that you need? Number one, consulting professionals. It's still under the aspect of speak out. Consulting professionals. Who are the set of professionals you can consult? You can consult a special educator. You can consult an occupational therapist. You can consult a psychologist. You can consult different people. What I'm just trying to say quite well is you have to be a voice for the child. Don't hide whatsoever things you are facing. Don't feel quite well, oh, I'm very shy. Speak out. Tell people, oh, I'm not saying this, I'm not saying that. Do you have any idea of this thing, what this thing could be? The person, I knew quite well that this is a sign of autism, this is a sign of Down syndrome, this is a sign of Fragile X syndrome, or whatsoever neurodevelopmental disability the child has. So the first thing is speak out. The second thing is consult a special educator. A special educator can be a behavioral therapist or whatsoever. The person will give you professional advice and some of the things you need to do. And another thing I want to do is seek or consult a pediatrician. Those are people that take care of children. You know, quite well. Always have a dialogue with your doctor, your pediatricians. Tell them, oh, this is what I'm noticing about this child, and it's very of concern to me. What should I do? Another point which I want to say is you have to relate with communities of like-minded people that share the same concerns as you have. For example, let me be more direct. A parent or a person with autism, or a parent that has a child with special needs, either autism or whatsoever condition it might be, try to create a community. Look for those people that have something like that. Ask them questions. Relate together. You breathe along with them. Once you breathe along with them, they are going to encourage you. You have more strength. You will not be lonely. In summary of it, the summary of this thing is parents should be able to speak out by consulting the relevant professionals that can assist. And those are special educators, occupational therapists, psychologists, and a lot of more. And don't exclude a pediatrician. Thank you.
Very, very useful. You know, since you mentioned community, Joshua, I'll tell you. So I run this company called Airwave, and we work in the space of neurodiversity. But we make nutritious products which provide nutrition for the brain, nutrition for gut, nutrition for immunity, for sleep, everything that a neurodiverse child or an autistic child needs. So it's been almost over 3 years now, and we have a parental community of almost 1 million parents that we are connected to.
That's impressive. That's great.
Yeah. And you know, this particular nutritional products, they have been consumed by over 500,000 children, teenagers, and young adults. And in this journey, Joshua, we speak to about hundreds of parents every day. And this one point comes up very often that, you know, I don't have a community. I have nobody else to talk to. Who do I consult? You know, not for everything you want to go to a doctor. And exactly for that, we saw that need. So we built this app where we get parents together. They can connect with each other. They can talk to each other. We've made WhatsApp groups. We've tried to do all these things just because we saw that the not having a community to talk to, the community that can relate to you, can be really depriving of the parent. The parent can feel extremely lonely. So I think you have a very, very valid point here. Yeah.
Sure. In order to emphasize what you just said, that's just the truth. And I want to appreciate your efforts in bringing those communities together. You have really helped a lot of people with that because you have been their strength, you have been their courage, you have really motivated them to know quite whether they are not alone. Thank you for that. It's a great community.
Thank you. Thank you. So you mentioned on non-verbal and speech delay. So my next question is, if a child with autism is non-verbal or has speech delay, what are the most effective communication strategies that they can try?
Okay, for non-verbal, right? The first thing I want to establish is there is a slight difference between non-verbal communication and speech delay. I said a slight difference. Now, when we are talking of non-verbal communication, that has to do with the characteristics of individual with autism, and that's the major trait, which means that they have it's not as if the speech is not inherently built, it's not there actually, but they are non-verbal. Speech delay, on the other side, speech delay has to do with when the speech is not forthcoming. The speech is not forthcoming, maybe due to a disorder in the brain or due to something that has gone wrong within the brain, because we have different hemisphere that has to do with that. We have the right hemisphere, we have the left hemisphere, and our brain is structured in different parts. We have different lobes. We have the frontal lobe, we have the parental lobe, we have the occipital lobe, and what else again? Frontal lobe, parental lobe, occipital lobe, and that's the one I have to mention for now. But the aspect of parental lobe has to do with language. I'm trying to bring some of the genesis in connection with the brain. The parental lobe has to do with language. You see a child that is verbalizing, that means the parental lobe contributed to that verbal communication. But for children with autism, we could say quite well that something has gone wrong. Something is wrong somewhere. So what are the important strategies? If this has happened, does that mean that's the end of the child? No, that's not the end. There are different ways whereby you can bring in communication. We have different devices that can support that. But before I list those devices or before I go into that, let me start with the simplest one, sign language. Help your child with a sign language interpreter. Now, the world has gone beyond what we think it is. This is 21st century. This is the world of AI. Sign language is there. Help the child with sign language. I have an experience over here in Africa, to be precise, Nigeria, where the child is not verbalizing, when the child is not talking, because they could not detect whether it was a problem in the speech or something. They have to provide an alternative, and that is they get a sign language interpreter for the child. And before you know it, the child has an alternative language. We are very hopeful that the child will still speak because the child is now imitating some sound. But the parent has tried to provide an alternative if the child is not communicating or is having non-verbal or verbal communication issues or speech delay. In short, what I'm trying to emphasize is special educator. What I'm trying to emphasize is sign language interpreter. Another thing is AAC. AAC, using of AAC device, and that is the aspect of augmentative. I want to try and remember augmentative alternative communication, I think. Yes, augmentative alternative communication. And this has to come with a device you can use in order to boost communication with children with autism. And there's a way you can improvise. You can use picture to deplete for them to bring communication. You can use flashcards. The last one is play-based communication. Try to preempt your child to speak. Preempt him or her to speak. Don't just say because he's not speaking, you just relax and stay over there. There are some things you would try to do to the child. Let the child speak. Do some things. If it is flashcard, you create a schedules. Show the child different slides, like a pictures. This is toilet, this is apple, or whatever you know that interests the child. It's going to shock you that the child might verbalize one day. The last thing I'm going to mention is consult a speech and language therapist. Speech and language therapist or pathologist. Let me put it that way. Through that, number one, they are going to exercise some therapeutic section for the child that will make the child to vocalize. And that's, let me stop over there.
Yeah, makes sense. You touched on this word, speech delay and autism, and this is a very common question that I hear from our parents. Can you describe what is the difference between speech delay and autism?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. The difference between speech delay and autism, I want to say speech delay. Some people tend or think speech delay could exist with autism because of the attribute of verbal and non-verbal communication. Speech delay is when there is delay in speech. Speech delay might not necessarily mean that the child will not speak. No. It just means that what it means is that the child might not speak at the appropriate time when he or she is meant to speak. That's why they call it speech delay. Delay in speech is called speech delay. And like I said earlier, when we started this, you remember I said there is developmental milestone, which means there are periods, there are milestones where some things are meant to come forth. And that's aspect of speech too. So speech delay, when the speech is not coming at the appropriate time, it is called speech delay. But children with autism, sometimes parents and also specialists also confuse and try to say, oh, the child has a speech disorder. But at the end of the day, we have seen autistic individual or individual with autism that they later speak. So the problem is not about the vocal cords, or it's not about what is producing the sound. The problem is about the milestone that is being affected in order to bring out the necessary speech. In short, or in one line, speech delay is just delay in speech. But non-verbal communication is that they did not verbalize out. They did not talk out. That doesn't mean they can't speak.
Yeah.
They might speak, but it might take time. And that has to do with the necessary measures and professional measures that I've mentioned earlier, consulting a speech therapist, speech pathologist, providing alternative like flashcards to boost their communications and speech. I hope I did a little justice to it.
Yeah. So I understood speech delay. In the beginning, you gave me a definition of autism. So
Okay.
can you repeat that? I found that definition very interesting. So I
All right.
understood what is speech delay, and maybe we can take this part of speech delay, but I want you to repeat the part of autism so that a lot of parents who come to us, they ask this question, they're very confused that does my child have only speech delay or does my child have autism? So I understood what is
Okay.
speech delay now. Now you can
Okay.
start from this point that, what is autism?
Okay. Like I said earlier, autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder that affects social interaction, verbal and non-verbal communication, to put things simple. Do I need to break it down more? Should I?
Yeah, a little bit.
What do you say? Should I
A lit
continue and break it down?
Yeah, you should break it
Oh,
down a little bit by saying what do you mean by verbal communication issue or non-verbal communication issue?
okay. What I mean by non-verbal communication is just that the person is not verbalizing. It has to do with the verbal words and non-verbal words, meaning that the person is not uttering out the necessary words. When we talk about verbal simply means the word you spoke out. That's verbal. Verbal is ability to speak something out, the word that comes out. Non-verbal communications are those words that, it doesn't come out, but imitating sound and making other stuffs like that. So when there is delay, when there is issues with verbal communications, which means the person doesn't speak out, we say quite well that, this is an attribute or characteristic of a person with autism.
So you're saying the person with autism can have speech, but will have verbal delay? I think I will take this question again because
Come again, please.
yeah. Let's redo this question. It's actually very
Okay.
important, which is
Okay.
what is the difference between speech delay and autism?
Okay.
Yeah. What I'm asking is if so the definition that you gave me of autism was
Okay.
somebody who does not behave in the right way socially, or someone who has social concerns when it comes to
Yes.
verbal and non-verbal communication?
Uh-huh.
I mean, is there a way, Joshua, to explain this in very simple one line that what is the difference between speech delay? where you said it
Okay,
is
like,
just delay in speech. They might speak, but they're just speaking later. And the other is autism. So again, I'll repeat the question. What is the difference between speech delay and autism?
okay. Just like I said, the difference between speech delay and autism, it's it's something that is a bit related, but it's different. Difference between speech delay is not autism. Is not. Is not autism. We are going to be getting it wrong when we say speech delay is autism. But we can say quite well that speech delay can accompany, or it's one of the characteristics or one of the things we see in a person that has autism. So speech delay could be, anyone can have speech delay. It's not necessary to be an individual with autism. It's not necessary. A neurotypical child might have speech delay. So speech delay is just delay in speech, which can happen to anyone. But children with autism too, they have the tendency, it's one of their characteristics that their speech might not come out early. So speech delay is just like a concept or characteristics that is found in an individual that have autism. But note, it doesn't connote that is autism. And
Understood.
the way I described verbal communication earlier, verbal communication has to do with use of words. You are using your words. For example, we are having a verbal communication now. Non-verbal communication could be clues, could be gestures. For example, let's take a practical example over here. For example, let's assume I imitated a sign to you like this. Meaning quite well, I'm trying to communicate a message that stop it. So those are non-verbal communications which individuals with autism find it difficult to understand, to interpret, because number one, they have no clues. They don't get to understand, interpret social clues. It's very difficult for them. They are just used to routines. So in summary, speech delay would occur in an individual with autism, but it doesn't necessarily mean quite well that is autism. It's just one of the traits, one of the characteristics we see in an individual, in a child that has autism.
Understood.
I hope
Yes. I think this has been very, very useful, Joshua. These were some very important questions I had for you. And you have explained all these questions in absolute detail and thoroughness and in such simple words. So thank you so much for this. And we will remain in touch.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.